My sister took a second mortgage, and my mother sold my wife's jewelry to pay it off. She told me it was helping the family, not stealing, and expected me to stay quiet. Instead, I filed a police report. My family's always treated my life like their personal toolbox. I finally pulled away, built my own stability, but turns out they weren't done using me yet. Before everything blew up, here's how it started. I'm 31, work in IT security, married to the most wonderful woman who's 29, and honestly has more patience than anyone in my entire bloodline. We've got a 2-year-old son who thinks drawers exist only so he can empty them. Family dynamic. Let's just say I grew up as the responsible one, which in my family means I don't cause chaos, so everyone assumes I can handle theirs. My mom, Adeline, runs on guilt trips and denial. My dad, Marshall, thinks any problem can be solved by pretending it doesn't exist. And then there's my sister Lily, who believes the world owes her a favor for being born on a Wednesday or whatever. Anyway, that should be enough background for you to understand why none of what happened next should have surprised me, but somehow it still did. It was a Saturday, and Alice was getting ready for a family get-together. She goes to the dresser to grab her grandmother's gold necklace, the one she only wears on special occasions, and I hear her go quiet. Not the, I'm thinking quiet, but the something is wrong quiet. Ross, where's my jewelry box? She hadn't opened it since the last special occasion about a month ago, so we didn't know exactly when it disappeared. We only knew it was gone now. Now this jewelry box isn't just a necklace, it had basically her whole inheritance inside it. Her grandma's gold necklace with a diamond pendant matching gold and diamond studs, a thin gold bracelet engraved with her grandmother's initials, a vintage pearl brooch, 2 rings, 1 sapphire, 1 emerald. Passed down through multiple generations, a silver charm bracelet from when she was a kid, and an old antique pocket watch her grandmother kept for sentimental reasons. Stuff that mattered. Stuff you don't just misplace. I walk over thinking she just shoved it in another drawer while cleaning. Happens. But I open the drawer and it looks like a crime scene. Empty clean as a whistle. No jewelry box, no stray earring backs, nothing. I said, well, unless it sprouted legs, someone moved it. Alice didn't even crack a smile. That's when I knew it was serious. We tore the place apart. Bedroom drawers, closet shelves, nightstands under the bed, bathroom cabinets, the linen closet, the car, even checked the stroller, because our son treats that thing like a portable storage unit. Nothing. Alice started checking bags she hadn't used since last summer. I checked inside our kid's toy bins because he once hid my keys in his sock drawer for reasons only toddlers understand. Still nothing. We asked the babysitter and she looked actually confused, like why would she even know what the jewelry box looks like? So no help there. Then we started thinking about everyone who'd been in our place recently, and since Alice hadn't opened that box in weeks recently, meant the whole last month. My parents came over Tuesday, Lily stopped by Thursday, the plumber was here Wednesday, and Mom and Lily had also been over a few weeks back for a visit the baby session that somehow turned into a Lily money crisis meeting. I remembered Lily wandering down the hallway at one point saying she was looking for the bathroom even though the bathroom door is literally right next to the kitchen. I brushed it off at the time. Lily treats boundaries like suggestions, but now it's stuck in my head. We kept casually searching throughout the week whenever an idea popped up. But by Friday, the situation was clearly not a "we misplaced it" thing. Then the letter showed up. Plain white envelope, looked like junk mail. It was addressed to me from a local pawn shop. I opened it expecting some spam about buying gold or whatever. Instead, it was a reminder that your pledged items were due for payment before the shop forfeited them. Listed items included exactly what the jewelry box had. I stared at that list for a good minute. Then I walked over to Alice, handed it to her, and said, "Apparently, I've been running a side hustle pawning your grandma's jewelry in my sleep." She didn't laugh. She looked like someone punched her in the stomach. I called the pawn shop right away, and the guy on the phone told me he couldn't discuss details unless I came in with ID. Standard procedure. Fine. But his tone said something was definitely wrong. I hung up, showed Alice the letter again, and said, "I'm going there first thing tomorrow." She nodded, but she kept staring at the list like she was memorizing it. This wasn't about money. Some of those pieces were priceless to her. Next morning, I got up early, grabbed the letter, and drove over. I walked into the pawn shop already irritated because I had a bad feeling about what I was about to hear. Place was small, smelled like dust and old metal. I walked up to the counter and said I got this letter saying I pawned things I definitely didn't pawn, so who used my name? The employee took the letter, typed something into the system, looked at the screen, then at me like he was gearing up to explain something I wouldn't want to hear. Yeah, these items were pawned here about a month ago. I leaned on the counter. Cool. Love that for me. Only problem is, I didn't pawn anything, so who did? He hesitated the way people do right before they ruin your day. I can't give names without police involvement, but I can tell you the ID used wasn't a match for you physically, meaning he spins the monitor slightly, not enough for me to see everything, just enough to throw me a bone. The person was an older woman, 50s maybe. I couldn't help it. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it confirmed exactly what I didn't want to admit out loud. Fantastic, I said. So someone stole my wife's family heirlooms and used outdated info from a version of me that existed back when flip phones were cutting edge. Let me guess. They also didn't bother changing the emergency contact because that would require effort. He cracked a small smile, which I assume is rare in his line of work. The paperwork has your full legal name and your current address, but the ID number they used is an old format like it was pulled from ancient records. Ancient records. Cute. That meant only one person had access to those. Adeline, queen of keeping old documents just in case. I asked, when were the items pawned? He read the date, and my stomach dropped. It lined up with that visit a few weeks back when Mom and Lily were just seeing the baby, and then camped on our couch talking about Lily's money problems. I asked one more question. Anything else I should know? He shook his head. You'll want to bring this to the police. We can release more information if they contact us. I nodded. All right, appreciate the honesty. And next time someone tries to use my name, maybe ask them why I aged 30 years overnight. He snorted. Trust me, I had questions. I walked back to my car, and the second I sat down, my phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Did Mom say anything to you about the mail? I told her you'd probably freak out. I stared at the screen. So she knew something was coming to me. Of course she did. I responded, yeah, got a letter. Very interesting reading material. Pass my thanks along to whoever forged my signature. She replied instantly, what? Why are you being weird? I put my phone down. I wasn't about to get sucked into Lily's dramatic vortex while sitting in a car in front of a pawn shop. Instead, I pulled up an old memory I hadn't thought about in years. A checking account my mom opened for me when I was a teenager to teach me responsibility, which mostly meant she controlled it until I moved out. I never bothered closing it because it had basically nothing in it, and I assumed it died a quiet death at the pawn shop. One detail kept chewing at me. The guy had mentioned paperwork. Paperwork means payout method. So I called back and said hypothetically, if the police request records, does your ticket show how the seller got paid? He didn't give me names, but he did say, yeah, it shows the payout method on the ticket. And suddenly, I knew exactly where to look. While I'm still sitting there, another text pops up from Lily. Mom said something might show up because of some paperwork she filled out. Don't make a big deal out of it. She was trying to help me. I almost laughed out loud. Only Lily could phrase stealing from my house and pawning my wife's family heirlooms as help. I typed out, we'll talk later in person. Lily didn't like that. Why? Why in person? I ignored the follow-up texts because I already knew what I needed to do. I drove home. Alice was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, holding our son, who was half asleep on her shoulder. She looked up at me, eyes asking 1,000 questions. Well, she said. I sat next to her. Pawn shop confirmed everything. Someone used my name. Older woman. They pawned your grandma's necklace, earrings, bracelet, both rings, the brooch, the charm bracelet, everything. Alice's hand went over her mouth. And I added, I'm pretty sure the cash went into my old joint account with my mom. She stared at me like she was trying to process it slowly, carefully, because the other option was crying. After a few seconds, she said, are you going to talk to her? Yeah, I said, standing up right now. She grabbed my arm gently before I could grab my keys. Ross, don't hold back. She needs to hear it. I smirked. Oh, trust me, I'm past holding back. And with that, I walked out the door ready to get answers or start a war if that's what it took. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway, I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just ready, calm, in the way a storm is calm before it rips someone's roof off. I didn't bother knocking. I walked in because they never locked the door. Adeline always says, family should feel welcome, which is funny because she definitely doesn't mean me. I stepped inside and immediately heard voices. Lily was there, of course. Her voice carries like a trumpet no one asked to hear. I'm telling you, it's not my fault the bank wants the money now, Lily was saying. They're being ridiculous. Then Adeline chimed in, sounding exhausted but also dramatically put upon. Sweetheart, banks don't care about people. They only care about numbers. Your brother should help. He's doing well. He can afford it. Oh, this was going to be fun. I walked into the living room. Lily was sprawled on the couch like a queen waiting for grapes, scrolling her phone. Adeline sat next to her, patting her leg like she was consoling a heartbroken child. Marshall was in his recliner pretending to read the newspaper, which is his favorite hiding spot when he knows something stupid is happening but doesn't want to intervene. Perfect, I said. The whole circus is here. Makes this easier. Adeline's head snapped up. Ross, you didn't call. Yeah, I said, holding up the pawn shop letter, because I wanted to surprise you. Apparently that's a family tradition now. Lily rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Ross. God. Drama already. I looked straight at Adeline. So want to explain why a pawn shop thinks I pawned my wife's inheritance? Adeline blinked 3 times too fast, a sure sign she was about to lie. I don't know what you're talking about. Try again, I said, sitting on the arm of the couch like I owned the place. Older woman, used my old ID info, pawned jewelry from my house. The same day you and Lily visited, ringing any bells. Lily crossed her arms. You're being rude. You can ask things nicely. I don't ask criminals nicely, I said without missing a beat. Only one older woman I know steals like she's speedrunning Grand Theft Auto. Marshall's newspaper drooped, but he didn't say anything. Adeline sputtered. Criminals. Ross, how dare you call your own mother? Stole from my house, I corrected. Used my name. Pawned items worth thousands. What should I call you? A jewelry fairy. Lily scoffed. Ugh, you're being ridiculous. Mom was trying to help me. I turned to her. Let me get this straight. You needed money, so Mom broke into my bedroom, stole Alice's grandmother's jewelry, and pawned it. And somehow that's supposed to make sense to me. Lily tossed her hair like she was on a reality show. You guys don't even use that jewelry. It was just sitting there. Oh, sorry, I said. Let me go pawn your stuff while you're not home. I'll leave you a thank you note. That's not the same, she snapped. Why not, I asked. Because you think you're entitled to everyone else's property. She stood up, pointing a finger at me. I needed that money. My house is on the line. I can't just magically make cash appear. And apparently, I said you also can't magically make good decisions. Adeline shoved Lily's hand down. Ross, please stop attacking your sister. She's under a lot of stress. Yeah, I said. And now my wife is under stress because you emptied her jewelry box like a raccoon in a dumpster. Adeline's lips tightened. We were going to replace it eventually. Were you going to replace her grandmother too? I snapped back. Lily gasped dramatically like I'd insulted royalty. You're disgusting. No, I said. I'm honest. Something you 3 should try sometime. Adeline suddenly stood up, voice shaking not with fear, but with offended pride. We are family. We help each other. If we took something, it was because we knew you wouldn't mind helping your sister. Oh, I mind, I said. I mind so much I'm filing a police report. The room froze. Marshall finally lowered the newspaper entirely. Now, son, let's not overreact. I stared him down. Your wife stole from my house. Your daughter benefited from the theft. I'm reacting exactly the right amount. Adeline's face twisted so fast it was almost impressive. If you tell the police, I'll have to tell DCFS about that burn incident with your child. They'll want to investigate. I raised an eyebrow. You want to weaponize child services against me because I caught you stealing? She didn't answer. Lily crossed her arms tighter. Wow, I said, standing. You guys are really racing for the worst family of the year. Congrats. Lily stepped toward me. If you ruin Mom's life, I swear. You swear what I asked calmly. You going to pawn something else? My car. She growled like she wanted to hit me but knew I'd hit back verbally twice as hard. Adeline tried again, voice breaking. Ross, please keep this in the family. Absolutely, I said, heading for the door. I'll tell the entire family, starting with the police. Adeline shouted my name as I walked out. Lily screamed that I was selfish. Marshall just sighed like he wished he'd stayed in bed, but I didn't stop. I was already halfway to the car. Game on. Filing a police report isn't exactly thrilling, but honestly, I felt calmer doing it than I had in that entire conversation with my family. At least the officer wasn't gaslighting me about pawnshop letters mysteriously writing themselves. The officer at the front desk, a guy named O'Connell, listened while I explained what happened. He had that look cops get when they realize the story isn't even at the good part yet. "So your mother took your wife's jewelry and pawned it using your name," he repeated, eyebrows raised. "Yep," I said. "And my sister's defense was basically we don't use it enough to keep it." He blinked. "That's not how property works. Don't tell them that I said. They'll have a meltdown." He handed me a form. "All right, fill this out. The detective assigned will follow up." By the time I finished writing everything down, dates, items, the pawn shop info, O'Connell had already entered the basic report into the system. Efficient guy. Maybe the only competent person I'd dealt with all week. 2 days later, I got a call from the detective assigned to the case, Detective Halden. Deep voice. Sounded like he eats paperwork for breakfast. He asked if I could come in. Alice came with me because she refused to stay home worrying. When we sat down, Halden flipped through the report. "Walk me through this again," he said. "Start with the missing jewelry." So I did. The search, the visitors, the letter. Halden didn't interrupt once. He just wrote notes and occasionally nodded like, "Yep, this tracks. This family sounds like fun." Then he asked, "Do you have a list of the missing items?" Alice handed him the printed list she made. It had everything. Necklace, earrings, bracelet, rings, brooch, charm bracelet, the antique pocket watch. Halden looked impressed. "Usually people tell me a necklace and call it a day," he said. I shrugged. "Alice is organized. I have many flaws, but marrying a disorganized person is not one of them." He smirked. "All right. And you said the pawn shop described the person as an older woman. Older female. Definitely not me," I said, "unless I magically changed gender and aged 20 years in a month." Halden leaned back. "They can release footage to us if we request it. I'm going to get that. Also, I said ask them for the pawn ticket details. Not just the items, the payout method." Halden's pen paused. "Why?" "Because if my mom did this, she didn't do it clean," I said. "She'd route the money somewhere she already had access to." He nodded once. "Good thinking." We left feeling not good, but at least like someone competent was steering the ship. 3 days later, Halden called me again. "Ross," he said, "I have the footage." I didn't even need him to say more. The tone said it all. "Let me guess," I said. "A familiar face. Your mother walked in, handed over your information, pawned the items, and took the cash. It's clear as day. And the pawn ticket shows the payout was loaded onto a card tied to my old teen checking account, the one my mom still had access to," Halden said. Alice made a pained noise in the background. I put my hand on her shoulder. Halden continued. "This is identity misuse and theft. I'm submitting the paperwork to request a warrant." "You don't sound unsure," I said. "I'm not," he replied. "This is straightforward." Straightforward. Wish my family operated that way. The next 48 hours were quiet, which meant Lily was unusually quiet too, probably planning a new personality to guilt trip me with. Then about 2.5 weeks after I first filed the report, my phone blew up with calls from Marshall. I ignored the first 2. By the third, I figured somebody either died or needed a casserole. What I answered. Marshall's voice was shaky. "Ross, the police came. They arrested your mother." There was yelling in the background, Lily obviously shrieking something about how I was evil. I kept my voice neutral. "That tends to happen when someone commits a crime." "You didn't have to go this far," Marshall said, voice cracking. "Oh, I absolutely did," I said. "This is what accountability looks like." "Welcome to it." Lily grabbed the phone. "Are you happy?" she screamed so loud I had to pull the phone back. "You ruined everything. Mom is crying. Dad is a mess. I'm still living off other people's money," I asked. "Yeah, I'm familiar with your routine." She screeched something unintelligible and hung up. Alice, sitting beside me, covered her face with her hands. "I hate that it came to this. I hate that they forced it to," I said. Later that afternoon, Halden called. Just letting you know your mother was arrested and processed. She has a court date in a few weeks. She requested a lawyer and made no statements. What about Lily? I asked. She benefited from the theft. Unless we can prove she knowingly participated, we can only charge the individual who pawned the items and used your identity, Halden said, but the investigation officially lists her involvement. Alice squeezed my arm. That's something at least. Halden cleared his throat. We'll keep you updated, Mr. Carter. After the call, I sat back and exhaled. Not relief. Not victory. Just the quiet realization that everything was now out in the open and couldn't be stuffed back down the way my family loved to do. Adeline had been arrested. Lily was spiraling. Marshall was desperately trying to pretend this was all a misunderstanding. But me, I was just getting started. I thought things might settle down after Adeline's arrest. Maybe they'd disappear into lawyer consultations, loan papers, and Lily's usual dramatic spirals. But no. My family treats chaos like it's a group hobby. About a week after the arrest, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I don't pick those up, but something told me I should. Hello, is this Ross Carter? A calm woman asked. Yes, I said. Who's calling? This is Rivera with the Department of Child and Family Services. We received a report regarding your son and need to schedule a home visit. I closed my eyes for a second, not out of fear, just to give myself a moment to swallow the irritation before it turned into sarcasm. Rivera didn't earn that. I understand, I said evenly. I'm assuming this is about the burn he had months ago. Yes, she said. The report mentioned a burn and concerns about supervision. All right, I said. We have the ER paperwork and follow-up documents. You're welcome to come by today. There was a brief pause like she wasn't used to cooperation. Today works. Thank you. When I told Alice, she sighed and shook her head. They're really doing this. I put an arm around her shoulders. And they're going to fail at it like they fail at everything that requires brains. When Rivera arrived that afternoon, she was professional, polite, and didn't walk in with an attitude which meant she got nothing but respect from me. I opened the door. Miss Rivera, thanks for coming. Please come in. She nodded. Thank you for being available on short notice. No problem, I said. Oh, we've got nothing to hide. Alice joined us in the living room holding our son. He was happily chewing on a toy dinosaur like it owed him money. Rivera sat down, clipboard ready, but her tone stayed calm. First, can you tell me what happened with the burn? I handed her the folder of documents we'd already prepared. He touched a hot pan when Alice had just turned off the stove. We rushed him to the ER immediately. They documented everything and we followed all aftercare instructions. He healed fine. She skimmed the paperwork, nodding as she went. No judgment, no assumptions, just doing her job. Thank you, she said. I'll need to check a few areas of your home. His room safety measures, things like that. Whatever you need, I said, gesturing toward the hallway. You'll probably find the house safer than a bubble wrap factory. My wife doesn't play around with baby-proofing. Alice smiled at that, and Rivera smiled too. She checked everything methodically. Crib height, outlet covers, cleaning supplies, placement, medicine cabinet, pantry, kitchen setup. She even knelt to check the locks on the lower cabinets. Our son followed her like she was the most interesting person he'd ever seen. When she finished, she stood and wrote a final note. Everything looks very appropriate. I have no concerns so far. I nodded respectfully. Appreciate you taking the time. I just have a few more routine questions, she said. We answered them honestly. Daily routines, meal schedules, childcare arrangements, discipline methods. Rivera wrote down our responses occasionally, nodding. When she finished, she closed her folder. All right, I'll be marking this report as unfounded. Alice let out a breath. Thank you. Rivera stood to leave. I can't comment on who submitted the report, but some cases clearly don't match the concerns listed. I walked her to the door. If you ever need anything else from us, call anytime. And thank you again for treating us fairly. She gave a small, appreciative smile and left. As soon as the door shut, my phone buzzed. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Lily. So enjoy DCFS. Maybe next time don't get mom arrested. I stared at the message, shook my head, and typed, case closed. Try again. She called instantly. I answered mostly because I was curious what delusion she'd go for this time. She didn't even breathe before yelling, You think this is funny? No, I said calmly, but I do think you're predictable. You ruined Mom's life. No, I said, keeping my voice level. Mom ruined her own life. I protected mine. She sputtered. If you had just helped me with my mortgage? There it is, I cut in. The Lily classic. You needed money, so naturally the whole world should pay for it. You're unbelievable, she snapped. And you're irresponsible, I said. Bad combo. She screeched something before I ended the call. An hour later, Marshall left a voicemail with his signature mixture of guilt and denial. Ross-san, this is tearing the family apart. Can we please talk privately without all this legal stuff? Delete. That night, Alice and I sat on the couch after putting our son to bed. She leaned against me. I'm glad you stayed calm today, she said. Rivera was doing her job well, I replied. Respect goes both ways. And the rest of your family? She asked. I smirked. They get what they earn. Alice nodded and took my hand. They don't realize, she said quietly. You're not someone who folds. Nope, I said, and they're finally learning that. Detective Halden called me on a Wednesday morning while I was eating breakfast. I saw his name on the screen and answered immediately. Alice looked at me over her coffee, waiting. Morning, Ross, Halden said. I wanted to update you before the paperwork goes through. The state attorney reviewed the case. I already knew what was coming. That tone, not bad news, not good news, just bureaucratic disappointment. Let me guess, I said. They dropped it. A brief pause. They decided not to file charges, Halden said. Not because it didn't happen. It did. It's because the state attorney's office is declining based on priorities. They're pushing it towards civil court and restitution instead of taking it criminal. I let out a slow breath. So yes, she did it, but no thanks. That's basically it. The evidence is solid. They're just choosing not to spend the resources on it. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my jaw. So she stole thousands in jewelry, used my identity, pawned it on camera, and the official stance is not worth the resources. Great system. Halden exhaled like he agreed but couldn't say so. I understand the frustration, but the arrest will still appear on her record. Alice perked up at that. So she doesn't just walk away clean. No, Halden said. The arrest stands. And the pawn shop already confirmed they're cooperating if you choose civil action. I nodded. All right. Thanks for the update, detective. Call me if you need anything, he said, and hung up. Alice came closer and placed a hand on my shoulder. So that's it. Criminal case is over. Pretty much, I said. But consequences still exist, just not the ones we wanted. She nodded. Then we focus on what we can control. That was one thing about Alice. She didn't spiral, she didn't catastrophize, she adjusted. And I loved her for it. Later that day, Halden emailed us the paperwork we needed to reclaim whatever jewelry hadn't been sold yet. The pawn shop had to hold certain items past the redemption window for investigation. Now that the criminal case was closed, they could return what remained. We drove over that afternoon. The same guy from before recognized me instantly. Hey, he said. Detective said you'd be coming. He brought out a tray with what they still had left. The gold bracelet with the initials, the vintage pearl brooch, the silver charm bracelet, and the antique pocket watch. Alice's eyes softened but also tightened, relief mixed with grief. The missing items were obvious. The necklace, the diamond earrings, the sapphire and emerald rings. Sold, gone. No way to get them back. I'm sorry about the missing pieces, the employee said. Once they were sold, it's out of our hands. I nodded. Not your fault. You didn't steal them. Alice held the bracelet, gently tracing the initials with her thumb. At least we got something back. We packed the items carefully and left. On the drive home, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, I got a text from Lily. Heard Mom's charges got dropped. Guess justice wins. I smirked. The delusion was astounding. Her arrest record says hi. She didn't respond for a while. Then you're disgusting. You want your own mother to suffer. I lost my house because of all this. Are you happy now? There it was. The real issue. Not justice, not morality. Her house. Not because she'd mismanaged money for years. Not because she ignored every piece of advice anyone had ever given her. No. In Lily's world, everything bad was always someone else's fault. I typed back, "You lost your house because you made terrible decisions and expected everyone else to pay for them." She replied instantly, "Mom was trying to help me by stealing from my wife." Yeah, heroic. She didn't reply after that. When we pulled into the driveway, Alice reached over and took my hand. "You handled that well." I shrugged. Handling Lily is like talking to a brick wall, only the wall doesn't scream back. We went inside. Our son was napping. The house was quiet. And for once, I wasn't waiting for something awful to happen. I had a list of things to do. Practical things. First, change the locks. I called a locksmith that evening. When he arrived, he didn't ask questions, just swapped out the hardware and handed me the new keys. I thanked him, tipped him well, and tossed the old keys into a drawer. Next, remove family from all access lists. Daycare pickup, pediatrician, emergency contacts, everything. Only Alice, myself, and one close friend remained authorized. Then freeze my credit because if Adeline had used my old information once, I wasn't giving her a sequel. Finally, secure the recovered jewelry. Alice and I placed the items gently into a new safe we'd bought, a heavy steel fireproof model that wasn't going anywhere. When everything was done, we sat together on the couch, the safe locked and bolted in place behind us. Alice rested her head on my shoulder. "They won't stop, you know." "No," I said, "but they also won't get close again." She nodded. "Good." I got another call from Marshall. I let it ring out. He left a voicemail. I didn't listen to it. At this point, I didn't need to hear anything else from any of them. They'd already said enough and done enough and lost enough, and I wasn't losing anything else to them ever again. I woke up the next morning feeling normal-centered, like I'd finally stopped trying to negotiate with a house fire. Alice was in the kitchen making breakfast. Our son was in his high chair smashing blueberries like he was interrogating them. It felt like a real life again, not the extended fever dream my family had dragged us into for weeks. Alice glanced over her shoulder and smiled. "Hey, sleep okay? Better than Adeline?" "I'm sure," I said, grabbing coffee. "Ross," she said softly, but I caught the smile she was trying to hide. "What?" "Accurate is accurate." While we were eating, my phone buzzed again. Marshall, of course, persistent in the way only a man who refuses to face reality can be. I let it ring. 2 minutes later, a text popped up. "Son, please talk to me. Your mother is devastated. This isn't you." I raised an eyebrow. "This isn't me," I repeated. "Sure, because me setting boundaries is apparently a personality shift." Alice snorted softly. "They really think you're still 16. "Yeah," I said. "Except now I have a spine, a mortgage, and the legal system on speed dial." After breakfast, we took our son to the park. Normal stuff. Swing sets, slides, toddlers arguing about who owns which shovel. It was one of those perfect weather days where the air feels clean and the sunlight doesn't try to cook you alive. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't scanning my thoughts for the next crisis. No waiting for the next letter, phone call, meltdown. Just being. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, but the text gave it away instantly. "Lily, I know you blocked me, but I need to talk. This isn't fair. I lost everything because of you." I didn't reply. I didn't even open the message fully. I just slid the phone back into my pocket. Alice noticed. "Your sister?" "Mm-hmm." "Want to vent?" "Nope." I said I'm retiring from doing emotional labor for idiots. She laughed. "Proud of you." We walked for a while, pushing the stroller, letting our son babble at ducks. At one point, Alice slipped her hand into mine. "I'm glad you didn't bend this time," she said. "I'm done bending," I replied. Every time I bent, they took it as permission. And when we got home, there was a letter taped to our door because apparently my family has discovered guerrilla messaging tactics. It was from Marshall. His handwriting was unmistakable. "Ross, we need to fix this. Your mother is not sleeping. Lily is in a very bad place. I know things were done wrong, but family must stay together. Please meet with us. We can talk without anger." I sighed. He really thinks this is a sitcom Family Feud episode. Alice read it over my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" I folded the paper neatly and placed it in the trash. Exactly what I just did. She nodded approvingly. That evening, I started doing the final things I should have done years ago. blocking emails, removing shared accounts, deleting old cloud folders, backing up important documents, and putting them in the safe. Alice helped me list everything we wanted locked down, and we walked through the house making sure nothing was accessible to anyone but us. Then I called daycare and updated the records again just to reinforce it. No pickup authorization for Adeline or Lily, no exceptions. After all that, it was quiet. Really quiet. Unsettling at first, then comfortable like the silence after turning off a noisy fan you didn't realize was bothering you. A few days passed with no calls, no texts, no surprise appearances. Lily went dark. Marshall stopped leaving voicemails. Adeline didn't attempt another DCFS stunt. Instead, the only thing I heard was through a cousin. Lily had launched a full-blown sympathy campaign on Facebook. Posts like, "When your own blood betrays you, some people care more about objects than family. I've lost everything and nobody cares." Classic Lily rewriting the story before the ink dries. I didn't care. Alice didn't care. And honestly, our lives were better without the noise. One night after we put our son to bed, Alice and I sat on the couch with the safe open next to us. We took out the pieces we got back from the pawn shop. The bracelet, the brooch, the watch, the charm bracelet. Alice held the bracelet for a long time. "It's not everything," she said quietly. "I know I said, but it's something. And the rest, we're not losing anything else to them ever again." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Promise." I kissed the top of her head. "Promise." We locked the safe, slid it back into its hidden alcove, and closed the panel. End of story. Except not really, because stories don't end cleanly in real life. But this chapter of our lives, this part where my mother steals from me, my sister throws tantrums, and my dad pretends none of it happened, that part was over and I wasn't doing it a second time.